Hey guys, it's Caleb at Vista Ventures and thanks for joining me. Today I wanted to do a quick first impressions overview of a new single man tent that I picked up here recently. This is the Drop X-Mid 1P tent by Dan Durston. Now this tent is a single person tent and is available from drop.com, I guess formerly massdrop.com, and it's designed by Dan Durston, who's a Canadian thru-hiker. Now those of you that have been following the channel for a little while know that I'm a hammock camper, but I wanted to go ahead and pick up a relatively cheap one-person tent just to kind of give me some added flexibility if I get in a situation where I want to go on a trip where it would kind of be easier to tent camp rather than hammock camp, and also just kind of give me another piece of gear to be able to try out. Now I was looking at a number of different trekking pole supported tents here. Finally decided to go with this one mainly because of its footprint as well as the cost. This sourced off of drop.com was only $200, and I was kind of kicking between this one and the tarp tent Notch, and the Notch is like $315 I think, and then if you want them to seam seal it, it adds an extra cost, whereas this comes completely seam sealed from the factory, so that was definitely a bonus. Another thing that I really like about the Drop X-Mid 1P tent is that it comes complete with everything you need to use it right out of the box. It comes with all the guy lines and 8 titanium shepherd hook stakes. As I mentioned, it's also completely seam sealed, so you don't have to screw around with any of that, and then it comes with the storage bag and everything as well. Now the X-Mid 1P is a double wall tent, which is another feature that I was really looking for. I really just wanted to be able to have a double wall tent, since I do the majority of my hiking here in the Northeast, just to be able to help cut down on the amount of condensation I'd be seeing in the tent as much as possible. Now the interior of this tent weighs in at 9.7 ounces. The exterior fly is 18.9 ounces, and then the bag with the 8 titanium shepherd hook stakes weigh in at 2.4 ounces, and then I think this storage bag is about ½ an ounce. So the total weight for this complete system here is 31.5 ounces. So it comes in just underneath that 2-pound barrier. So I was really excited about that. So enough talking about the specs of this tent. Let's go ahead and get it set up, and then you can kind of see what it looks like. Here we are with the outer fly all set up. This is actually only my second time setting this up, but overall the setup is super simple on this. Basically all you do is just shake it out on the ground, stake 2 of the short sides here, 2 stakes, and then what Dan says on his website, kind of the key is when you stake this 3rd side over here, you just kind of make sure that you've got a 90-degree angle between this side over here and then this 3rd stake to kind of form this 90. Apparently that's kind of the key to making sure that you've got a good setup on here, and then just stake out the other side. And then he also recommends before you go ahead and put the trekking poles in, to just kind of go around and tighten each of the 4 corners and just kind of make sure they're all pretty good and snug. And then just kind of drop your trekking poles in, which is nice if it's raining or something. They've just got these vents here. You can just drop the trekking poles in through there and then tension them out, and then you've got the fly set up. It's pretty straightforward, I gotta say. Also want to mention that this is a dual entry tent, which I definitely was a fan of. Just kind of like that flexibility. If you would for some reason need to get it in or out either side, just kind of nice having that option. And you know, everything's just kind of symmetric from this corner to the far corner over there. Everything on the tent's pretty much the same, so it doesn't really matter which way you set it up. Either way should be fine. As I mentioned, the tent does come with the shepherd hook stakes included, and then on all corners of the tent it has these little line locks along with the guy line already attached with a loop on it. So that's really nice. You don't have to worry about rigging that up yourself. And then on both door panels, they've got the line locks and guy line as well on each side of the door panel. and then the door's got a real nice zipper that is looks like it's seam sealed and is a waterproof zipper, so that's definitely a bonus. Then on both sides of the fly, you just got this Velcro on here, and then there's just Velcro on the inside here, and then it's just got this little carbon fiber stay that you just kind of undo the Velcro like so, and then you can just pull this back out and Velcro it back in place. Just kind of give you a nice little bit of ventilation. And then there is also guy line and line locks on both corners of the fly as well. Just kind of, if you were in some real high wind situation or something, you could string that guy line out and fasten it down here to the ground and just kind of really make the shelter as bulletproof as it could be. And the last stake I wanted to mention, just kind of for normal setup, Dan recommends on the website that if you just go ahead and stake out this little flap here just a little bit with one of the extra stakes, just kind of helps keep this piece here from flapping around if you want to unzip the door there and then roll it back. And then it also has tie backs right here. So let me go ahead and get the door rolled back there, and then you can kind of see what it looks like inside with just the fly set up. So here I've got one of the door panels rolled back so you can kind of see what the inside of the tent looks like. Then I've got a Thermarest Z-Light in there, just kind of give you some scale. Now I do have 3 of the panels cut off that I use as a sit pad, so that's not a full length Thermarest Z-Light pad. As you can see, there's pretty substantial amount of room covered underneath this fly, which is pretty nice. And then how you end up laying in here, which will be easier to tell once I get the inner tent installed, is you kind of lay on a diagonal from that corner there down to this corner here. But there is definitely a pretty significant amount of room in here for a single man tent, so I'm really pleased with it. So now let me get the inner tent installed so you can kind of see what that looks like. Another feature of the fly I'd like to show is that on all 4 sides of the tent, they do have these extra little pull-outs here that if you wanted to, again, if you were in some real high wind or something, you could stake those out as well. And then there's also ones on the short side. So it's really nice to just kind of have that extra availability of stake out points, just in case you kind of get in a real rough wind situation. Alright, so now I've got the inner tent installed inside the fly, and installing that is really easy. You've just got these attachment points here on the corners. Now I will say one minor change that I made to this is when this came, this connection point here was actually reversed. It was actually fixed on this end, and then you attach this clip-on down here to this D-ring, or there's a grosgrain loop there as well. I just thought it'd be easier rather than trying to reach the whole way down there and unhook it right here at the tent. We'll see if I keep it like that or not, but that's the only minor change I made to how this is set up. So as you can see, it is a little bit on the diagonal here from that corner over there to this back corner down here. So just kind of almost an ASIM setup inside of the fly here. But the advantage of that is if I can show you through the netting here on the far side, you kind of end up with this pretty nice sized triangular vestibule on each side and really wide down at the far end if you wanted to stuff your pack or something. Here I went ahead on this end and just kind of threw my Granite Gear Crown 2 pack in here, kind of give you some scale. As you can see, this is a 60-liter pack and it fits in here pretty nicely. So you've got ample room to be able to store your stuff. And then in the morning or something, if it's raining, if you had this down, you wanted to do cook your breakfast or something right here, you certainly could do that. Looking around, the floor looks pretty nice bathtub, and the way it sits, it gets well up off the ground, so so it shouldn't have to worry too much with getting moisture in if it's raining and kind of running underneath the fly. And then there's also in the top of the inner tent here these pockets sewn into the netting if you wanted to put something in there. I'll throw a cell phone in there, just kind of give you an idea. And I will say it looks like if you have a good bit of stuff in here, it kind of weighs it down and it tends to sag. So I don't think you'd want to really overload those pockets, but they are there for little items like maybe a headlamp or something like that you wanted to just have readily accessible during the night. Along with the attachment points at each of the four corners of the inner tent, it just attaches up here to the fly just with a simple buckle, and it just clips on there, and then you can tighten it down and just kind of raise the inner tent up as much as you want. And then as you can see, there's a pretty fair amount of room here between the inner tent and then the outer fly. So I got, you know, almost a full hand width there. So that should be nice. Shouldn't have to worry too much about getting any sort of moisture coming in and getting on the inner tent. And just like the fly, this inner tent just kind of has a real simple cord lock and then a loop kind of closure mechanism here to just kind of roll the bug netting up out of the way. And then both sides are set up exactly the same. Now the outer fly of this tent is a 2000 millimeter sil poly material, which from what I've researched looks like it absorbs a lot less water and, you know, therefore doesn't stretch as much as sil nylon does. So I'll be really interested to kind of see how that behaves, you know, out on some wet trips. I do want to point out that when you're pitching this tent, you don't have to pitch the fly first and then install the inner tent. You can go ahead and have the inner tent already installed and then just pitch the whole thing as one unit if you want to. So that's another feature of this tent that I really like, is that you've kind of got the option if you want to, you know, pitch it fly only, pitch the fly first and then install the inner tent later, or just go ahead and have everything all installed at once. So here I wanted to give you guys a look inside the tent. As you can see, there's definitely not a ton of room in here, but what do you expect? It's a one-man tent. Just kind of the way everything slopes up here at the top, it just kind of comes into a point. So my head's kind of touching both sides here without trying too hard. And then also my shoulders here on each side are just kind of gently touching the bug netting here. So I definitely wouldn't want to have to, you know, hang out in here all day to avoid a rainstorm or something if I could help it. If I had to do that, I'd probably end up dropping this inner tent down or something, just kind of give me some more space in here, because it's definitely a little claustrophobic. So here's a shot of me laying down in the tent. As you can see, I'm about 6 feet tall, 215 pounds, and I've got, I don't know, probably 6-8 inches here above my head before I'd get into the bug netting, so that's not too bad. And then it's definitely a little tight width-wise, and my shoulders are kind of touching each side here, so it's pretty much just what you need and nothing extra, which is what I was looking for. So that was not too bad for me. I wasn't looking for, you know, something to be able to run circles in here. And then here's down at the foot end. My right foot is just touching the bug netting here. My left foot is not. Obviously with the space above my head, I could scoot that way a little bit to get away from it, but I don't really think that would be too big of a deal for me. Here's a view of the other vestibule with the rain fly closed. As you can see, you've got a substantial amount of room down there for your pack and shoes and that sort of a thing. And then it just kind of narrows as you get to the other end here. But definitely all kinds of vestibule space. That's what I've seen on all the reviews and stuff I was watching on this tent before I ended up purchasing it. So definitely pleased with the amount of covered storage I've got here underneath the rain fly. I want to point out that the tag on the inside of the storage sack here for the tent does have the setup instructions right on it, which is pretty nice. That you know, you don't have to worry about it if you're out there on the trail and are having problems. Got the directions right here for you. Alright guys, well that pretty much wraps up my first impressions of the Drop X Mid 1P tent. I've not had this out on any trips yet. Like I said, this is only the second time I've actually set it up, but I'm certainly looking forward to. I don't know if it's going to happen this fall or not. We'll just kind of see what sort of trips I end up going on, but after I get this out on a half dozen trips or something like that, I'll be sure to follow back with you and let you know what I think about this tent. I mean, if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to comment in the video and just ask me any specifics you want to know about it, and I'll be happy to help as best I can. For that, guys, get outdoors, have fun, and embrace the uphill. Till next time, this is Vista Ventures. It comes with, what does it come with? I don't know. If only I could remember and then tell you. Dual entry shelter. Recommended that you babble a lot. Just a tarp setup and just go without the inner tent. If yeah, on all the kind of entry points. Yeah, all the entry points. But overall, this would definitely be a pretty nice option, even if you wanted to just use this in kind of a tent camping. Yeah, tent camping. Another feature of the Fly. Ugh, maybe if I could clear the frog out of my throat.